The call for help, the crystal-clear waters of Thalassa Prime sparkled under the light of twin suns. But Elder Naya could see the dark shadows that poisoned her world. From her dwelling deep beneath the waves, carved into the living coral reef that had housed her people for thousands of years, she watched the massive Zephyrian mining platforms floating above like metal storm clouds. Young Kale swam up beside her, his silvery scales catching what little sunlight penetrated the depths. At barely 20 cycles old, he had never known a world without the oppressors. His large dark eyes reflected both curiosity and the weight of growing up under occupation. Elder Naya, Kale asked, his voice carrying through the water with the musical quality all Kilari possessed. Why did the humans say they would send only one ship? The Zephyrians have hundreds. Naya's ancient heart ached as she remembered the hope that had bloomed in their people when the message arrived 3 days ago, such a simple response to their desperate plea. One ship coming. Hold on. The entire Kalari Council had been baffled. How could one ship face the might of the Zephyrian 7th Fleet? She turned to face her great-nephew, her own scales now faded to the pale blue of great age. Come, young swimmer, let me tell you how we came to send that message, and why the humans. Response may not be as strange as it seems. They settled onto a bed of soft seagrass, surrounded by the gentle current that flowed through their underwater city. Bioluminescent creatures drifted past their windows, casting dancing patterns of light across the coral walls. This had once been a paradise, before the Zephyrians came. You must understand, Kale, that our people have always been peaceful. We Kalari have never developed weapons of war. Our ancestors chose harmony with the ocean, with each other, with all life. When the Zephyrians arrived 50 years ago, we welcomed them as guests. Kale's fins twitched with frustration. But they weren't guests, were they? No, little one. They came with their massive ships and their energy weapons. They told us that Thalassa Prime was now part of the Zephyrian Empire. Our oceans, our cities, our very lives belonged to them. Naya's voice grew heavy with sorrow. They built those terrible platforms above us, sucking the precious minerals from our seabeds, poisoning our waters with their waste. The young Kalari had heard parts of this story before, but never the complete truth. What did we do? At first, we tried to reason with them. We sent delegations to their commanders, offered to trade fairly, to share our world's bounty, but the Zephyrians see only strength and weakness. To them, our peaceful nature was weakness to be exploited. Naya gestured toward the surface, where the shadows of the mining platforms darkened their world. They took our strongest swimmers to work in their deep-sea mines. They stole our children to serve in their homes on distant worlds. They turned our ocean paradise into a resource extraction operation. Kale's young mind struggled to understand such cruelty. But surely someone tried to fight back. Some did. The resistance of the deep formed in secret, led by your father before he was taken. Naya's voice caught slightly. They attacked supply lines, sabotaged equipment when they could. But Zephyrian technology was centuries ahead of ours. Their weapons could boil the ocean itself. Their ships could withstand anything we threw at them. The old Kalari swam to a shelf carved into the coral wall, retrieving a small crystal device. This is how we learned of the humans. A Zephyrian data core recovered from a damaged patrol ship. It contained reports about a new species that had recently achieved interstellar travel. Kale moved closer, fascinated. What did it say? The reports were ... unusual. The Zephyrians had done what they always do when encountering a new species. They sent a message demanding submission or conquest. But the humans' response was unlike anything in Zephyrian history. Naya activated the device, and a holographic display showed the original transmission. The human response appeared in the universal trade language. "We appreciate your message, but we must respectfully decline your kind offer. We prefer to manage our own affairs. Please remove your ships from our space within 72 hours, or we will remove them for you." They said no. Kale's eyes widened in amazement. They said no. And when the Zephyrian fleet refused to leave, something unprecedented happened. The humans didn't just fight back, they won. Not completely, but enough to force a stalemate. For the first time in centuries, the mighty Zephyrian war machine had met its match. The crystal device showed tactical reports that even Naya didn't fully understand. Ship movements, battle formations, casualty reports, but the conclusion was clear. Humanity had fought the Zephyrian Empire to a standstill. The reports spoke of human unpredictability and unconventional tactics. They mentioned something called asymmetric warfare and expressed frustration with human refusal to engage according to standard protocols. Kale absorbed this information with growing excitement. So we asked them for help. The council debated for 7 tides. Some feared that humans might be as bad as the Zephyrians, just in different ways. Others worried that asking for help would only bring more violence to our world. But Elder Corran, may his spirit swim free, made the decision that changed everything. Naya's voice took on the formal tone of historical recitation. He said, "We are dying slowly under Zephyrian rule. Our children are taken, our seas are poisoned, our culture is being erased. If there is a species that can stand against the Empire, we must take that chance." The message they had sent was simple and heartfelt. We are the Kalari of Thalassa Prime. For 50 years, we have lived under Zephyrian occupation. Our peaceful ways make us powerless against their technology and cruelty. We have heard that humans value freedom. Will you help us find ours? We offer nothing but gratitude and the friendship of our people. And they said yes, Kale asked. Not exactly. The response came 3 days later. Message received. 1 ship dispatched to your location. Estimated arrival, 6 standard days. Hold on. Naya remembered the confusion that had followed. 1 ship against the 7th Fleet. Many Kalari thought it was a translation error or perhaps human arrogance. Others feared that the humans simply didn't understand the magnitude of their situation. Commander Zeth certainly didn't take it seriously, Naya continued. Zeth was the Zephyrian military leader who controlled their sector, a cruel being who took pleasure in the suffering of others. When our resistance contacts intercepted communications about a single human ship approaching, he laughed. Actually laughed. The intercepted transmission had been broadcast to his entire fleet, 1 ship. These humans must be either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Either way, this will be entertaining. All units maintain standard patrol. We'll swat this human insect when it arrives. But not everyone in the Zephyrian command was so confident. The crystal device showed classified reports from the Empire's intelligence services. Warnings about human tactics, recommendations for increased vigilance, analyses of previous human conflicts. Some of their commanders had fought humans before, Naya explained. They knew that humans didn't think like other species, where most galactic races followed predictable military doctrines. Humans seemed to delight in doing the unexpected. The reports mentioned specific incidents, human ships appearing where sensors said nothing existed. Supply lines disrupted by forces that vanished before reinforcements arrived. psychological warfare campaigns that turned entire Zephyrian units against each other. But even those who respected human cunning didn't expect much from a single ship. How could one vessel, no matter how advanced, face an entire fleet? Kale leaned forward eagerly. What happened when it arrived? Ah, young swimmer, that is where the story becomes truly remarkable. The human ship didn't announce itself with grand displays or threatening messages. It simply ... appeared. Naya's voice dropped to an almost whisper. On the morning of the 6th day, every Zephyrian sensor in the system detected the same thing. Nothing unusual. Their patrols reported all quiet. Their orbital stations saw no signs of intrusion. And then, at exactly noon local time, every Zephyrian communication channel received the same message. The crystal device displayed the transmission. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the human vessel Determination. Zephyrian forces. You are hereby ordered to cease all operations on Thalassa Prime and withdraw from this system within 24 hours. This is your only warning. Commander Zeth's response was predictable. Naya continued. He ordered all ships to search for the human vessel. Every sensor was pushed to maximum range. Every patrol was doubled, but they found nothing. The young Kellery was practically vibrating with excitement. How is that possible? That dear Kale is what makes humans special. While other species built bigger guns and stronger shields, humans asked a different question. What if the enemy can't find you to shoot at you? The story was interrupted by a deep rumble that shook their coral dwelling. Through the crystal windows, they could see one of the massive mining platforms above them adjusting its position, its giant extraction arms reaching deeper into the seabed. The humans call it stealth technology. Naya continued once the noise subsided. Their ship was there, in our system, but the Zephyrian sensors couldn't detect it. Imagine trying to catch a fish that you cannot see, cannot hear, cannot sense in any way. Commander Zeth grew more frustrated as the hours passed. He sent patrol after patrol, searching every asteroid, every moon, every possible hiding place. His communications grew increasingly angry, then desperate. By sunset, he was screaming at his subordinates, threatening executions for incompetence. The crystal device showed intercepted military communications from that day. Zeth's voice translated into Kellery, revealing his growing panic. How can an entire ship simply vanish? Our sensors are the most advanced in the galaxy. Find me that human vessel or isle, space the lot of you. But as night fell over Thalassa Prime, something began to happen. One by one, Zephyrian installations started reporting ... problems. Kale's eyes grew even wider. What kind of problems? Technical difficulties, communication errors, system malfunctions. Nothing dramatic, nothing that looked like an attack. But across the entire occupation force, equipment began to fail in small, seemingly random ways. Naya activated another section of the data crystal. The supply depot on the third moon reported that their inventory systems had somehow rearranged themselves. Weapons were catalogued as food supplies. Ammunition was listed as medical equipment. The entire storage facility was in chaos. The orbital defense platform above the northern continent found that its targeting computers had developed a curious glitch. Every time they locked onto what they thought might be the human ship, the system would redirect to target other Zephyrian vessels instead. Most unsettling of all, the communication array that connected the occupation force to the rest of the Empire began broadcasting old human entertainment programs. Instead of military updates, Zephyrian commanders across the system found themselves listening to something called jazz music instead of receiving their orders. The young Kelari giggled at the absurdity of it. They must have been so confused, angry, and increasingly frightened. These weren't random malfunctions, they were too coordinated, too precise. Someone was inside their systems, playing with them like a predator plays with its prey. The crystal device showed more intercepted communications, Zephyrian officers reporting impossible infiltrations, security breaches that left no trace, equipment that worked perfectly until the moment it was needed most. By midnight, Commander Zeth was no longer laughing. He issued new orders. All ships were to form a defensive formation around the main command vessel. No more patrols, no more searching. They would wait for the human to reveal themselves and then overwhelm them with superior firepower. Naya paused in her tale, her ancient eyes reflecting the dancing lights of the bioluminescent creatures outside their window. That young Kale was exactly what Captain Chen had been waiting for. The arrival, the dawn of the seventh day, brought no comfort to the Zephyrian fleet. Commander Zeth stood on the bridge of his flagship, the dominant force, staring at tactical displays that showed his ships clustered in a tight defensive formation. Around him, his officers moved with the nervous energy of predators who had suddenly realized they might be prey. Deep beneath the waves of Thalassa Prime, Elder Nea and young Kale watched the events unfold through their resistance networks. Monitoring systems. The Kelleri had learned long ago that survival meant staying informed about their oppressors' movements. What happened next, Elder? Kale asked, his young voice filled with anticipation. What happened next, dear swimmer, was that humanity showed the galaxy something it had never seen before. Not superior technology, not overwhelming force, but something far more dangerous, superior thinking. The crystal device displayed the morning's intercepted communications. Zeth's voice carried a tremor of uncertainty. All ships maintain formation. The human vessel must be here somewhere. When it reveals itself, we'll concentrate all firepower and end this quickly. But Captain Sarah Chen had no intention of revealing her ship in the way Zeth expected. The human commander had studied Zephyrian military doctrine extensively. She knew they expected a direct confrontation, ship against ship, superior firepower against superior firepower. That was how galactic warfare had been conducted for millennia. The first sign that something was different came at exactly 0800 hours. Naya continued. Every screen in the Zephyrian fleet simultaneously displayed the same image, a human female in military uniform, sitting calmly in what appeared to be a ship's bridge. The holographic display showed Captain Chen as she had appeared that morning, a woman of perhaps 40 standard years, with short, dark hair and eyes that seemed to see everything. Her expression was polite but firm, like a teacher addressing unruly students. Commander Zeth, her recorded voice had said, "I am Captain Sarah Chen. You have had more than enough time to consider our request. Your 24-hour deadline has expired. Please prepare your forces for immediate withdrawal from Thalassa Prime." Seth's response had been predictable. "Surrender now, human, and we may allow you to live. You are outnumbered 50-1. Your single ship cannot possibly prevail against the might of the Seventh Fleet." Chun's reply would be remembered throughout the galaxy for generations to come. "Commander, you seem to be operating under a common misconception. You assume this is a military engagement between two fleets. It's not. This is a teaching moment. You're about to learn why humans have a saying. It's not the size of the ship in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the ship. What followed was unlike anything in recorded galactic history. Instead of a massive space battle, Captain Chen proceeded to systematically demonstrate the difference between force and intelligence. The first lesson began immediately, Naya told her fascinated great-nephew. Every Zephyrian ship, suddenly, found that their weapon systems had developed a very specific malfunction. They could target and fire at anything they wanted, except the human ship they couldn't find and each other. Kale's eyes widened. She made them unable to fight. Not unable to fight, little one. Unable to fight effectively. Their weapons worked perfectly, but only against targets that posed no threat. They could destroy asteroids, space debris, even their own equipment, if they chose. But the moment they tried to target another ship with living beings aboard, their systems would shut down. The psychological effect on the Zephyrian crews was immediate and devastating. These were warriors who had conquered dozens of worlds through superior firepower. Suddenly, their greatest advantage had been turned into a source of confusion and fear. Commander Zeth tried everything, Naya continued. He ordered manual targeting, backup systems, even prepared to ram the human ship if he could find it. But Chen stayed one step ahead of every move. The crystal device showed intercepted communications from that chaotic morning. Zephyrian officers reporting systems failures, navigation errors, and communication breakdowns. But the most unsettling reports weren't about equipment, they were about morale. You see, Kale, Captain Chen understood something that the Zephyrians had forgotten in their centuries of easy conquest. Fear is more powerful than any weapon, and the unknown is the most frightening thing of all. Throughout the morning, strange things began happening aboard Zephyrian ships. Food replicators would only produce human cuisine. Environmental systems would play human music at random intervals. Crew quarters would display images of Earth's oceans and forests instead of the usual military propaganda. But the most brilliant stroke came at midday, Naya said, her voice filled with admiration. Chen began broadcasting on all frequencies. Not threats or demands, but something far more effective. The truth. The broadcast had been simple and devastating. Captain Chen, still sitting calmly on her bridge, had begun reading from Zephyrian military reports. Casualty figures from their conquest of Thalassa Prime. Documentation of forced labor. Of children taken from their families. Of environmental destruction for the sake of profit. She read their own words back to them. Naya explained. Official. Reports that many of the soldiers had never seen, describing the consequences of their actions in clinical, bureaucratic language. She made them confront what they had become, but Chun's masterstroke was yet to come. As she read these reports, she began to personalize them. For each statistic, she provided names, faces, stories. She showed holographic images of Kellery families, torn apart, of poisoned waters where children once played, of a beautiful world slowly dying under occupation. And then Naya's voice grew soft with emotion. She told them about hope. The broadcast had shifted to show images of other worlds the Zephyrians had conquered. But these weren't images of subjugation, they were images of liberation. World after world where human ships had arrived, where occupation forces had been, peacefully convinced to leave, where enslaved populations had been freed. She showed them that there was another way, Naya continued, that they could choose to be something other than oppressors, that they could go home to their families with honor instead of shame. The effect on the Zephyrian fleet was profound. These were soldiers, many of whom had never questioned their orders. Suddenly confronted with the reality of what those orders meant, Intercepted communications showed increasing unrest among the crews. Commander Zeth tried to counter the broadcast, Naya said. But every time he attempted to override Chun's signal, something even more embarrassing would appear on his screens. Personal communications to his superiors, where he complained about the difficulty of controlling primitive aquatic species. Love letters to his mate back home, where he described the easy assignment. On a backward water world, young Kale giggled at the image of the mighty Zephyrian commander being humiliated by his own words. But Chen wasn't finished. As the day wore on, she began the final phase of her plan. One by one, she started making Zephyrian ships visible to each other's sensors. But with their identification signals scrambled, the result was chaos. Zephyrian vessels, already on edge from hours of psychological warfare, began treating each other as potential threats. Ships that had served together for years suddenly couldn't verify each other's identities. Friendly fire incidents? Kale asked. No shots were fired. Naya replied with admiration. Chen was too clever for that. She simply let their own paranoia and confusion do the work. Ships maneuvered to avoid what they thought were enemy vessels. Formations broke apart. Communication became impossible as no one could verify who they were talking to. By sunset, the mighty Seventh Fleet was scattered across the system, its ships fleeing from shadows and phantom enemies that existed only in their own frightened minds. And then, as the twin suns of Thalassa Prime touched the horizon, Captain Chen made her final move. The crystal device displayed the last transmission of the day. Chen appeared once more, but this time she wasn't alone. Behind her stood representatives from a dozen liberated worlds, all speaking in their own languages but with the same message. It doesn't have to be this way. She gave them a choice, Naya said. Leave Thalassa Prime peacefully and return to their homes with the knowledge that they had chosen honor over oppression, or stay and face the consequences of their actions, not from her ship's weapons, but from their own consciences and the judgment of the galaxy. The response was swift. One by one, Zephyrian ships began requesting permission to depart the system, not in defeat, but in recognition that they had been shown a better path. Commander Zeth was among the last to leave. His final transmission to Captain Chen was intercepted and recorded. Human, you have shown me that strength comes in many forms. Perhaps it is time for the Empire to learn new ways. Within hours, the occupation of Thalassa Prime was over. 50 years of oppression ended not with a massive battle, but with a single ship that never fired a shot. But how? Kale asked, still struggling to understand. How did one ship accomplish what our resistance could never do? Naya smiled, her aged features reflecting the wisdom of survival and the joy of freedom. Because, young swimmer, the humans understood something that the galaxy had forgotten. The strongest weapon isn't made of metal or energy, it's made of ideas. Captain Chen didn't defeat the Zephyrian fleet with superior firepower. She defeated them with superior thinking. The old Kalari gestured toward the surface, where the water was clearer now that the mining platforms were gone. She showed them their own reflection and gave them the choice to like what they saw or change it. Most beings, even Zephyrian soldiers, when truly confronted with the consequences of their actions, will choose the better path. Kale absorbed this lesson, his young mind grappling with concepts of warfare that didn't involve violence, of strength that came from understanding rather than force. That's why the humans sent just one ship, Naya concluded. Not because they were arrogant or didn't understand the threat, but because they knew that one ship, with the right captain, the right plan, and the right message could accomplish more than 1,000 ships with only weapons to offer. As the bioluminescent creatures began their nightly dance outside their coral windows, Kale looked up at his Gratant with new understanding. Will the Zephyrians come back? Perhaps, Naya replied honestly, but if they do, they'll find a different galaxy waiting for them. Word of what happened here has spread to every world under Empire control. Other species are learning that there are alternatives to submission. The humans have shown us all that sometimes the greatest victory comes not from defeating your enemy, but from helping them choose to be something better. The story ended as it began, with the crystal-clear waters of Thalassa Prime sparkling under starlight. But now those waters were free, and in their depths, a young Kilari had learned that true strength comes not from the power to destroy, but from the wisdom to inspire change. And somewhere among the stars, Captain Sarah Chen and her ship Determination continued their journey, carrying with them the knowledge that sometimes, just sometimes, one ship really is enough if it carries the right kind of crew with the right kind of courage.